Hello, we are doing SketchUp tutorial number 2 for the corn maze project. So we need to start by opening up our file from SketchUp tutorial 1. So you're going to log into your G Suite account and open up your folder in which you saved the file. It should be your TechEd folder. And once you're there, you will see your file. It ends with SKP, think SketchUp, SKP. Open that up, and it will take a little while to load, so just be patient. Make sure you're using Google Chrome when you're using SketchUp. Alright, so here's our file from last class. We drew some shapes, then we practiced with measurements and the offset tool. Now let's use the hand tool, or H for hand, to move down, and we're going to work in the third and fourth quadrants today. Alright, so we are going to use the rectangle tool to make a square that is 50 feet by 50 feet. So I'm going to use the hand tool. I'm going to move down a little. I want to give myself a bunch of space. Okay, so R for rectangle. Click and drag. I'm going to type, and it's going to show up down here in the dimensions box. 50, the feet symbol, which is an apostrophe, comma, space, 50, feet symbol, enter. Make sure you have space up here because we're going to add to the top of this rectangle. If you messed up, or if you realize, oops, I don't have enough space here, and about this is as much space as you would need. If you realize it didn't work, undo, try again. So click, move your mouse outward, click, and then 50, feet symbol, comma, space, 50, feet symbol, enter. And you can see the measurements down here. Alright, so we're going to use a new tool today, and that's called the arc tool. It can be found over here. There are a variety of different arcs. We're actually going to use the 2-point arc, that's this one, or A on the keyboard, A for arc. So when you use the arc, I know it's called the 2-point arc, but you actually have to do 3 clicks. So we're going to go to this corner here. This is our green endpoint, and click once. So you just clicked and released. All right, now I'm going to move my mouse to the other green endpoint, click and release. And then look, I'm going to drag my mouse up. See this green line? That means it's lining up with this green axis over here. If the color, see how it's blue right now? You don't want it to be blue, but I just want to show you this. I'm going to click. So you might think, wow, that looks great. But really, oh no, because it lined up with the blue axis, which is our Z axis, which gives us our height. So if something funny happens, what do? Undo, and try again. So A for arc. Click once in this corner, click again in this corner, and drag out. Make sure you're lined up with the green axis. And this measurement will be 12 feet. So 12 feet, enter. And look, if I orbit, see it's flat. We're still designing 2-dimensionally. And remember, I'm using the orbit tool, or O for orbit. Alright, we're going to draw 2 more arcs because it's good to have practice with it. And in fact, I'm going to change my angle a little bit so it's easier to see. Okay, I'm getting the arc tool again, A for arc. And I'm going to find the light blue midpoint along this edge. Found it! Okay, so my first arc is going to be 15 feet. So I am at the light blue midpoint, and then I'm going to the other corner here, green. I click, drag my mouse out. Did you see? Blue. We don't want it to be blue. We want it to be red because it lines up with the red axis. So click, and 15 feet, enter. Notice how this dot is green because it's an endpoint. This is no longer the midpoint of the line. Over here is the midpoint of the line because we have a smaller segment now. All right, but we're going to go to this green point, click. Go to this green endpoint, click. drag outward. Remember, we want a red line letting us know we are parallel with the red axis. And we're going to do 10 feet this time. 10 feet symbol, enter. Just good practice with arcs. We're also going to practice with the offset tool again. And I'm going to show you something that might happen with the offset tool that could be frustrating. First, we're going to do the easy version. So F for offset, or remember your offset tool is right here. And there are two ways that you can do offset when you're working with a space like this. So this section has the dots, meaning that like this whole face is selected. So we're going to start with the face. So make sure you have all the dots here. You're not on this edge. And you're going to click and drag inward. And we're going to set this to 2 feet. So 2 feet symbol, enter. So you can see how it recreated this line at the bottom and the curve. We're going to do it a little differently on this arc. So instead of having the blue dots, instead of selecting the face, we're going to select the edge here. See how it's a blue line? Click, drag inward, and again, 2 feet, enter. So I'm going to get the select tool, or spacebar for select, and notice what happens. Over here I can click in the center, that's its own piece, and the outside is its own piece. Let's try to do it here. Wait, it selected the whole thing. You might also notice this line is very dark. So those are 2 clues to let you know that something isn't connected. Let's zoom in here. And you could use the Z for zoom, click and drag, or use your trackpad, or use the wheel on a mouse. So you can see, oh look, it's not connected. So I'll get the line tool, or L for line, and I'm just going to draw a line here to here and connect. But remember, you have to do, oh, look, see how it's stuck? Just press escape on the keyboard. Escape. All right, we're going to zoom out. And we need to do the same thing on this side. Make sure you zoom in really close. If you try to do it from far away, it often doesn't work. Zoom in, click, click, and you should have completed the line. I'm zooming back out. Remember, if it's difficult to zoom back out, go over here and use the zoom extents. That'll zoom you out all the way. Okay, so I use my hand tool to adjust, and let's double check. I'll get the select tool, which is the space bar on the keyboard. Ah, look, yay! 2 different pieces now. So it's going to be really helpful for when you're doing your maze. Next, we're going to learn about the freehand tool. When you are designing with the freehand, you don't have straight lines. It's like drawing with a pencil. So let's go over to the pencil tool here. And this one is freehand. There is no shortcut for the freehand tool. And when you draw, you're kind of just starting on an edge most of the time, and then hold it down and draw until you get to another edge. If you want to draw kind of in the middle, whoa, look at this crazy shape I'm making. And you're like, okay, I think I connected it. Actually, I think I did connect it. It did it automatically, but it doesn't always do it automatically. For example, there, see? Really dark line, not connected. Green endpoint, click and drag to green endpoint in order to connect it. I want you to draw 2 or 3 freehand drawings inside of this rectangle. They do not have to look like mine. They could just be funny little shapes, or if you have awesome skills, you could draw something more intricate. But so just practice with the freehand tool, 3 different little shapes inside of the rectangle. Pause, and when you're ready, we'll go to the 4th quadrant. All right, I'm going to zoom out, use the hand tool, and move over to the 4th quadrant. So we are slowly progressing to more and more complicated things. So this next part is going to be the closest practice that we're going to get to doing a maze. So I'm going to show you two different ways that you could possibly design the space for your mazes. We need the rectangle tool, and we're going to draw a 50-foot by 50-foot rectangle. So click, drag outward, let's do 50, feet symbol, comma, space, 50, feet symbol, enter. A new tool that we haven't used yet is the paint bucket tool. And when you're doing a maze, you want to actually do the paint bucket fairly early in your design. So here's the paint bucket. It's the one that looks like a bucket. Also, you can do B for bucket, not P, because that's going to be push-pull that we're going to talk about at the end of class. So B for bucket. Some colors already show up, but if you click this browse, there are so many options. Bricks and carpet and just general colors, glass, and like grass, and so many things that you can check out that are really fun. I suggest making, like when you're doing your maze, sometimes it can be really hard to see if you have something with a lot of lines. But play around, you can always change it. I'm going to keep life simple, and I'm just going to use a really pretty blue. Alright, so I selected my color, but now I need to select the space that I want to color. So I'm going to click on this rectangle. Bam. Got it. And then you can click the home, and now that color is there. SketchUp remembers the colors that you have used so that you don't have to go searching again. It's in your home. You can also click this back arrow to make this panel go away. Remember, it'll come back if you click on the paint bucket. Okay, so we're going to create a pathway. Whenever you're doing a maze, you have to have an entrance. So I'm going to zoom in here. It'll just make life easier. Use my hand tool to adjust my view. And I'm going to get the rectangle tool. When you're doing your maze, one of the requirements will be that your openings, your walkways, are at least 5 feet wide. You know, makes sense for if you have people walking through the maze, because measurements actually matter when you're designing things. So I'm going to make a series of rectangles. So let's say I want this to be my entrance. I'm going to click and drag, and I can see in the bottom corner, look, my measurements are changing. And I think I want this to be 5 feet by 15 feet. So set it, 5, feet symbol, comma, space, 15, feet symbol, enter. Next, I'm going to make another rectangle, and this one will be, let's say, 10 feet by 5 feet. So 10, feet symbol, whoops, comma, space, 5, feet symbol, enter. I don't like that. Undo. Let's start from this corner instead. And notice I'm doing it from the edges. That way I know that my path will be connected. Okay, 10. Feet symbol, comma, space, 5, feet symbol, enter. So you can see the path starting to form. Let's do one more. Green endpoint, move over. Even if you don't know exactly how big it's supposed to be, that's all right. 5, feet symbol, comma, space, 5, feet symbol, enter. So you can see I've made the beginning of my path. But you can't walk through this yet, so we're going to use the eraser tool, which is right here, or E for eraser. And I'm going to start to erase these lines. Remember, when you're erasing, you're not clicking on the face. You need to click on the lines, but be very careful. So click, click. If I were to accidentally click, say, here, undo, that's fine. And then you could also click this line. Ooh, see how it opens it up? Now I'm going to press undo and show you another way that you could do it. Get the select tool and right click on this shape, and you could choose erase as well. The line would still be there, you're just erasing the face. But I do want to erase that line, so I'm going to erase it. Alright, so yours should look like mine so far with the exact same measurements. Now we're going to use push-pull, which I showed you in the last tutorial, but you didn't have to use it. And push-pull is here. It's one of my favorite tools. So it allows you to push things up, or I guess pull things up or push things down. And also P for push-pull on the keyboard. And this is what's going to make these two-dimensional shapes three-dimensional. Right now we have width and depth, but we're going to add height. So it's hard to tell because this is already blue, but when I hover over this shape, it gets a bunch of tiny little blue dots, just like it would if I was over here or over here. And I'm going to drag this up. So click once, move my mouse upward, and then I'm going to type 8 feet, enter, because that's approximately a good height for a corn maze. I'm going to orbit so I can change my view. Ooh, look, see? It's like the beginnings of walking through a maze. All right, so that's one way to do the maze. Let's move over, and I'm going to show you another way. So we're going to make nearly the same thing, just in a slightly different way. Let's get that rectangle tool, R for rectangle. We'll make another 50 by 50 square. 50 feet, comma, space, 50 feet, enter. And we will still use the paint bucket. We'll go ahead and do that now. So B for bucket. It popped up. I'm going to use a different color this time. I'm going to start with this light blue. No, well, yeah, I could do the light blue now. Doesn't matter. All right, I picked my color. I selected the shape. I'll make this go away by pressing the arrow, use my hand tool to adjust the way I'm viewing this. Okay. Now, I'm going to use the offset tool, or F for offset. And I'm going to have the shape selected instead of an edge, plus it doesn't even let you do an edge, so that I can replicate all four sides here. So I'm going to click and drag in, and I'm going to type 1 foot, enter. This now is going to be the wall of my maze. You'll see as we add more. Okay, so now I am going to do the same thing I did before, but I'm going to use a few different tools. Look, see how that's selected? I got the select tool, click off to the side. I don't want it to be selected. All right, I'm going to use this thing called the tape measure, or T for tape measure. It's right here. It can be very helpful if you ever don't know how much something measures. So I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to pick anywhere along this line, click, drag outward. See how we make this dotted line? This is like helping you figure out how far away something is. So I'm going to drag and set it anywhere, and then I'm going to type 15 feet, enter. And that line automatically bounces to 15 feet. Super helpful. I also want to make a rectangle. Also, I want to start my entrance, let's say at the midpoint. So I'm going to click and draw a line, and I'm going to line it up with the midpoint. See how it's doing that there? Because I moved my mouse to the midpoint, I'll press escape and show you again. So I went to this edge, click, drag, but it's not going to always automatically line up. You have to move your mouse, midpoint, and then click. Okay, so now I have these points that help me figure out where exactly to start my rectangle. So I have the rectangle tool. Oh, one more thing. Let me get the tape measure again, T for tape measure. I know I want my pathway to be 5 feet long. So I'm along this dotted line, click, drag outward, set it, 5 feet, enter. Now we will erase all these lines later, but look, I have created my first pathway, which might be helpful depending on how you want to do your maze. So I have the rectangle tool, and look, we get these X's, these intersection points where these dotted lines are. And that helps us to know that we are exactly where we want to be. So rectangle all the way down here, and we made the rectangle. Now, of course, the other way was easier, but you will end up likely wanting to use the tape measure for other things. So I'm going to get the eraser tool, and I'll erase the dotted lines. I'm going to do them outside of the rectangle so that I don't accidentally erase something I don't want to erase. Next, I'm going to get the tape measure again, so we can keep practicing with this. T for tape measure. And I'm along this line, click, drag out, and I'm going to set it to 10 feet, enter. Same measurements I did on the last one. And I'm going to grab this edge and go down 5 feet, enter. Let me get the rectangle tool, R for rectangle, go to this intersection here, to this endpoint here. Eraser tool, erase these dotted lines. And we're going to make one more square using this tool. So I'll get the tape measure tool again, move down 5 feet, enter. Sometimes it starts to remember and it pops into place for you. And here, oops, see, it popped into place. You can look at the measurement down here in the corner. It's like it knows 5 feet. And I have this next area already figured out. So get the rectangle tool, intersection, click, green endpoint, click, eraser tool, erase the dotted lines. And now you have the same shape as before, I just learned how to do it in a different way. But there's one extra feature we're going to add. First, let's get the eraser. Erase this line and this line. Good. And now let's use the offset tool. F for offset. We have this shape selected. Click, drag outward. 1 foot, enter. Get that eraser tool again. Now be careful here. Zoom in. We want to erase this line. Nope, just kidding. Undo. Or Control Z. We want to add 2 lines first. So get the line tool, L for line, because this is going to be our opening. So here to here, green to red, and make sure it's parallel. See how it's a green line and not a black line. Zoom back out. Now we can erase. So get the eraser tool. We can erase here, 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 and here. See how it's one continuous piece now? This is a wall. Okay, so let's change the colors of this wall because it will start to get confusing at one point. So we'll get the paint bucket, and I'm going to use orange, and I'm going to color the wall. Bam! High contrast. Very obvious, very easy to see now the difference between my walking path and my walls. Arrow to make it go away, and then the push-pull tool, or P for push-pull. I'm going to go over to my wall, pull it up 8 feet, enter. And look, here's another way to create a maze. So this one, you're just cutting into the walls. This one, all the walls are going to be the same amount of space. It just kind of varies how you want to do this. Alright, so again, yours should look the same as mine. You should have a rectangle with 3 arcs. You practice with the offset tool and you made 3 freehand shapes. Then you made the beginnings of 2 mazes, but you learned how to do them in 2 different ways. We also made them three-dimensional by using the push-pull tool. And we also learned how to use the paint bucket and the tape measure. Alright, so we need to get a good angle because we're going to be exporting this as a PNG file. As always, we need to press save. and it'll save to the same location as before. We should probably have saved several times while doing this. All right, 3 lines. Export. PNG. Make sure you like the way it looks. We want to be able to see the new stuff you did. Export. Export. It will likely show up on your downloads or maybe on your desktop or down here, and this is the file you're going to be submitting to the assignment. Good job, guys.